Hello everyone and welcome back to another video on the channel. It is I, Nemesis Viper, and today we're going to talk about one of my personal favorite game series franchises that I haven't talked about yet, and that is Plants vs. Zombies. Today is going to be a tier list, if you saw, right? You picked on the video, right? You saw the name and the thumbnail, right? That it's a tier list. But today's is going to be a little bit different than the ones I've done before. This is not going to be a full game tier list. This is going to be a tier list on only one mode in Battle for Neighborville, and that is Battle Arena. I have not seen this done ever, and I just thought it would be a cool idea as Battle Arena is my favorite mode of the entire game. And I just wanted to do that. Some things I'd like to point out first. When it comes to the Oak and Acorn and Space Cadet and Space Station, I will put them as one character. Same with ZMech and Imp. Another thing I want to just bring up is that if I just say map, I am talking about the version 2 of the Thunderdome, unless said otherwise. That's just because that's the one I've played the most recently and where I got my footage. So it's the one that's most fresh on my mind. I will mention the first one a little bit, version 1, but just not as much as version 2. So, with that being said, let's get started on this tier list. Now, I want to talk about D tier, of course, first, and there's only one character and a legendary upgrade from the same character in this tier, and that is Rose, and of course, Thorn Apart Rose. Now, I'm going to talk about them at the same time because I think that they are very similar because, well, they're the most similar out of even legendary upgrades, to me anyway. And that is because Thorn Apart, the only difference is that you cannot aim down with the primary and instead get these little orbs around you that you can shoot at the homing. But, what's the problem with Rose and why I put her in D tier? Well, I think it's a couple things. One, I would like to point out that I think, for the plus, her abilities are a lot better in Battle Arena than they are in the rest of the game. But that is because there are only 4 people on the other side. So if you jinx even only one zombie, that is a lot more impactful than it would be in a turf takeover or team makers where there are a lot more people or zombies, more per se, on the enemy side. So that goes for almost every single character for the record, but it does give the Rose a little bit more power. But I think that Jinx is decent. It allows for more damage to, zombie, but that's kind of the thing with Rose. She's a stats effect character. With the Jinx, with the Godify, which I think, by the way, is her best ability, which I'll get to, that's all she has is her ability. I don't think for her primary is good. It's slow. It does home, but it doesn't really matter too much on that point. Because if you're good at the game, you can just deal so much more damage with so many other characters, basically any other one, and I just think it doesn't matter. Even with Thorn Apart, which obviously is better of the two, because even though you can do it often, if you get enough orbs, you can just shoot it out, and if it hits, keyword if, it can kill or do a lot of damage to a zombie very quickly. But I think that, Godify, let's talk about that. Godify is a very good ability, I will give her that. I think the one thing is that it's how good of an area denial tool it is, especially for choke points. If you're in a hallway, it's great. If you're somewhere else where you have to stay, like endgame, where you're in the circle and you have to take it over, kind of like a mini turf takeover, it's pretty good for that. Because it's so big and it does turn all the zombies to near useless, it can be nice for a reset. The reason why I say reset is because it also makes the zombies very fast. Not as bad as I would say as it is in Garden Warfare 2, but it still is a problem where they can run away from you. But if your plants are losing and you have a sunflower still around, it is very good for reset. Now, Arcane Enigma, decent tool. I think there is a better version of it on the zombie side, which I'll get to in a minute. But it is very good for rushing, to get in to the middle closer if you want that. And it's also good if the Rose wants to get in, maybe throw a Jinx out, or maybe throw a Gotify, and then the Rose can use it to run away. So it is good for, again, resets. Rose is a reset character, at least in my opinion, and that's what she's good at. But I don't think it's good enough to the point where I can put her higher. Because she's not good on her own. If she's on her own, she's screwed. And yeah, it's really the abilities that even give her a chance to have a point in where I can say she's even worth using. I don't think she's worth using, but if you like her, go for it. You could get a good Gotify or something, or Jinx every once in a while, but you're not going to get much off her. So instantly after Rose, we go to the C tier. I think that the character I'm going to put here first is 80s. Here's the thing about 80s. I really like 80s action hero as an idea. As an idea in a book in the mind. Really cool idea. But I don't think he works at all in practice. Now the reason for this is a couple things. His main gimmick, of course, if you don't know, is he charges his bow, which does less damage than other longer range, primaries like the Deadbeard and the Cacti and, Wizard. But he has an ability called Camp Missile. Now, Camp Missile is a homing attack, but he only can really get the homing if he has a mark on an opponent, which he gets from shooting them with his bow. It's a cool idea. It definitely reminds me of Toad in Titanfall to an extent, where, he has to shoot them 3 times and then he gets his missiles. But it's way worse than that. And that's because the Camp Missile is not an ability you can just get all the time like it is for Toad's missiles. You only have it once and then you have to wait a while to get it again. And it's a whole thing. Also, homing in Battle for Neighborville, not very good. It may be called the Camp Missile, but this missile will miss a lot because it doesn't take cover into effect in the slightest. But a lot of things don't for homing in a lot of games, but it's really bad in this one, especially in this map, the Thunderdome, both versions. Now, the reason why I say that is because it is overall a smaller map. Version 1 is definitely a little bit bigger in the middle and everything, and that does help 80s a little bit, but it's still problematic where there's just too many corners and too many places for them to hide when they see the missile coming to them. That makes him just difficult to get much out of. Now, there is one thing though about him that I will say has its moments that can be very good, but it also can be very bad. It's a risky play, but a high reward. And that is his rocket ride. Now, if you are able to hit rocket ride without your opponent seeing you first, it's very good. It's a very good ambush tool. But if they see you, or if there's more than one plant that you're not hitting right away, you're kind of going to get destroyed. It's so explosive and so noticeable, and it puts you in the air, and you're really slow. So you're a slow, easy to hit, noticeable target, but you deal a lot of damage. Again, there are times where it could work. I think one of those main times is at the end game where you have to take over that little mini turf takeover area. That can be pretty good for that. And the reason why is because, again, if they don't see you, you can just be shooting up there and then you hit them. Especially if you have another teammate remaining, even better. And then, he also has Dynamite Dodge. It's his movement tool. Not bad, not good. It's very medium. And he does have low movement overall, I would say, because of that. But it isn't terrible. It has its moments. It is very good for him to just, get out of the way into cover, but that's kind of it. So yeah, I put him here. I definitely think he does better on version 1 of the Thunderdome, just because, again, it's a little bit more open. That goes for all the longer range characters, but I would keep that in mind while you're playing him. But yeah, that's where I'm going to put him there. So, the next character I'm going to put in C tier is Wildflower. Now, this might seem like a low placement if you play the game and you're like, wait, Wildflower, but doesn't she get a second life and all that crazy stuff, and you know, the drone, and yeah. Here's the thing about that. The second life thing doesn't work. Same with TV Head. It doesn't work. So that basically gives them only 2 abilities. Same for Wildflower or TV Head, which I'm talking about TV Head kind of at the same time here, but we'll get there. Yeah. And that's kind of problematic because, you know, that's a big ability and that is something you're losing there. I also would say, and I think this is basically unanimously agreed upon, Wildflower's drone is way worse than TV Head, just because sure you have, you know, the jump that's higher up, which can be useful at some points, but it's just so slow. It's just so slow. If you have decent aim, you're probably seeing it, and you're probably just going to shoot it and it dies. I will say it is a little bit better on the Thunderdome than usual, just because, again, it is a smaller map, and it's a more enclosed map with a lot more choke points. So, you know, it is a little bit better there. But I still think it's overall worse than the TV Head drone by a lot. Now, she also has the little grenade kind of like thing. I'm forgetting what it's called. But that one, again, I would say is worse than TV Head's, which, you know, that one, Wildflowers, does 50 damage, but explodes instantly. TV Head's takes a minute, but does 75. Here's the thing. If TV Head's one hits the opponent, it explodes quicker. At least maybe it's a placebo on my end, but it feels that way. And even if you miss it, it still doesn't take too long, and if you plan it out correctly, you're going to get that 75. With Wildflower, you're only getting 50. I will admit it's harder to use than Wildflowers, but I think you get more off of it. And that is why I have to put her here with that. Because the only thing she gets above TV Head is having 10 more ammo, which is a decent amount, but I don't think TV Head has an ammo problem. Another thing, actually, that I'm forgetting is, of course, the melee. Melee is very, very good. It does 50. So I will say it does allow for some very good kill times, especially against lower health zombies, where you can just shoot them a couple times, do the melee, and that's 50 damage right there. So that's the only reason why I would put Wildflower a little bit above, you know, 80s and Rose, but definitely not the best in this mode, in my opinion. Yeah, kind of have to put him. So yeah, I think the next one I'm going to have to talk about is Corn. Yeah, let's talk about Corn here. I did think about putting Corn in B. I did. It's definitely mixed match. If you want to put Corn in B instead of C, get it completely. But I'm going to put Corn in C for now. I flip on this by the daily. But the reason why I would put Corn a little bit higher than I would in most cases in Battle Arena is because Butterbeacon, which is usually not a great move, is actually good in Battle Arena. Because knowing where your 4 opponents are is very, very nice. But his problems still remain. His damage isn't very good unless you have Butterbeacon, which again is better, but still. And, you know, Huskop is still good, and Shuckshot's iffy. That's kind of the problem. I don't have much to say on him. I'm going to talk about him a bit more with the Shogun Guard, which I think is much, much better. And I think it's just the version you should use. I will say there is a reload upgrade. I'm forgetting the name of it at the moment. But it basically makes your reload near instant, but it doesn't matter when you don't have great damage. So, you know, again, if you want to use Red Cord, I wouldn't blame you, you know, because it's, you know, not the legendary upgrade. You have a lot more malleability on the upgrades, and less discluding Shogun Guard, because, you know, with Shogun Guard, you don't have that malleability. But, yeah, I still don't think it's as good, unfortunately. That's just where I'm going to have to put it. Now, let's talk about B tier. In B tier, first one I want to talk about is TV Head. Now, I know this might go as a surprise that putting TV Head a tier higher than Wildflower, because of the minor differences, but let me explain. Most of this is because, yeah, it's the drone. You guessed it. It's the drone. Look, the drone is so broken in this mode. Sure, Wildflowers again is fine, but because of how fast the Yeti is, you're going to get those kills a lot easier. It kills, the lower health plants instantly. It gets other ones very low. It's just a very good starting point, especially if they have like a sunflower. Boom, kills it instantly. And it's faster, so you actually be able to hit it, unlike the Wildflower in most scenarios. Again, I also talked about the TV dinner, in my personal opinion, being better than the Wildflowers. So I just think it's better overall. I think it's warranted enough for a higher tier. A lower higher tier placement, but still a higher tier placement. Now, next up, this is where I talk about the corn, the Shogun Guard. Yeah, a little bit higher than, the corn, of course, in B. But I think it's just because everything that I said about corn still applies, except for the damage. Shogun Guard damage is better. It's still not the best in the game, but it's better. Of course, you also have the shield, which makes it even infinitely better. So you're kind of a defensive plant with some decent damage, and you can help your teammate with the butter beacon. So yeah, I think he's pretty decent there. I think I would usually put him a little bit lower in a regular tiers, but with this being a battle arena, I think that again the use of the butter beacon is very good. Again, Chuck Shot is alright. Hush Cop is good. Not much to say there. Now the next one I'm going to put B, which I don't know how much of a surprise it would be, but is Cactus. And I'm also going to put Deadbeard right above Cactus. Nope. There we go. Now, here's the thing about these two. I think they can be pretty good. I know I was saying with 80s, hey, it's normally a smaller map, even with version 1, which is a little bit bigger, which again, they are better on that map, by the way. But I think the difference between them is, with 80s, is that their damage is actually good by itself. If you have the full charge, that does 99 on the spot. And yeah, that is one hit away from killing a Sunflower. Literally 1 point away. I don't think I need to explain why that's good. So, if you hit a Sunflower, or if you even somehow hit a Nightcap with that, that's instant death. That's why I kind of have to put them there. But they do have problems, like, they're not the best close range. Drones in this mode are not very good, because you're putting yourself in a bad position, because the plants can get over to you. Oh, now you're there. Bye-bye. Yeah, you get the point. The reason why I'm going to put Deadbeard above Cactus is, for one, the barrel. The barrel is just, I think, the better ability than like the Cactus Potato Mine by far. And again, the drone is near useless, so those two abilities, we really have to think about them a bit more. So that's why I gotta put them there, a little bit above. I will say though, I think that either or of their movement abilities, you could say which one is better. That's up to you. I will say though, I think the Cactus might be a little bit better. I don't know. No, it's Deadbeard. My bad. Definitely Deadbeard's better on that one too. Just because I think it's faster. You're not in the air for very long, which is definitely better in my opinion. So yeah, I think just the Deadbeard abilities are better overall, and I kind of put them up there. If you like the Cactus close range, primary better, I can understand that, but I just think the abilities on Deadbeard make them a little bit more better for what we have here. So yeah. Now, the next character I do want to talk about is Acorn. I'm gonna put Acorn B. I think this might be a little bit controversial, and I definitely understand why. But I think that, well, Acorn is just not very good in this mode. Even when you have, you have all your teammates, hey, let's do the, acorn oak thing where, one's oak and then you have 3 acorns on top. It just isn't as good as the space station at all, which I'll get to in a minute. But I think the problem with Acorn is that even though he does have some good things, there are a lot, and I mean a lot of ways to counter him. You have the stun from the engineer, the out of fight from electric slide, the the steam blaster. Just certain things can kind of make it where like, oh, you're gonna die from him, or I'm gonna run away with the out of fight, like I was saying. Or there are even ways to do it more with the Cosmo shot from a space cadet, or just the impunt from an all-star, or if you don't have the health upgrade where he has 100 health, all-star's tackle will just instantly kill you. Stuff like that. It just makes it kind of hard to play Acorn. And of course, with the Oak, a little bit better, I guess. With, if you have the 3 acorns, it is better, than, Acorn, obviously. But the problem with that is, they can still hit the other acorns. So if you have a sniper, or if you have anyone like that, they could just shoot the acorns and then kill you. It's just not good enough for this mode, if you ask me, to be higher. Still not a bad character, and I still wouldn't not recommend playing him, but I just have to put him here for those reasons. Yep. Now, the next character I do want to talk about is Foot Soldier. Yeah, I'm gonna put Foot Soldier in B as well. I know B is big, but trust me, I got reasons. Now, Foot Soldier is a very, very simple character. I think that comes to surprise to no one. I do think his abilities just don't come to as much aid as they would in other places. Like the rocket jump, it helps. It helps. I will say that in the place with the version 2 of the Thunderdome, where the little circle is for the end game, there are 2 platforms on both sides. These platforms are very important in my opinion, and if your character that you're playing can get across them, because it allows you to run, use an ability, go over it, and then you're on the next side very quickly. Now, Foot Soldier can do this with Rocket Jump. That is the one use of it. Like Cactus can do that too as well, and Deadbeard, just for the record. So, yeah, I think that's the only use for Rocket Jump for Foot Soldier. The Stink Cloud, it's only good for 2 things. One, it's good for if you're in one of the hallways and it's a choke point, you could throw it down and be harder to see you, or maybe which where the plants are to do a little bit of damage, or for late game where you could throw it down in the little circle and you could make it where they're taking constant damage. That's the only uses for that. And then ZPG, which as we all know, if you're good with it, it's broken. If you're not good with it, it's not. But I'm putting him here where if you're good with it, because you should be good with it, because it's good. It's just literally instantly better Shuck Shot by like 3 times. But yeah, I think it's just because of his abilities not being the best. And I mean, again, he's good primary though. I think I have to put him here. Definitely a starter-friendly character, as well as going to be our next character, Pea Shooter. So Pea Shooter I do think is a little bit better than Foot Soldier, and that is for a couple reasons. Let's talk about it. I think Pea Shooter's primary is a little bit better than Foot Soldier's, including having how many upgrades you can add that are just for the primary, which I think is very nice. Like Last Ditch is an amazing upgrade. Or even the homing P, which, while again I said homing isn't very good, it's still an upgrade for Pea Shooter homing. I know it's nerfed, but still not bad. Or, stuff like that. I think just make it even better, but by itself, good primary if you know what you're doing. Chili Bean Bomb is basically what Stink Cloud probably should have been, which I know it sounds dumb, but it's just Chili Bean Bomb is so good for the late game. One of the best abilities for it. But outside of late game, iffy. I think, again, it is good to get zombies out of, certain choke points and stuff like that. It's a good move, like crowd control, where you're forcing the zombies to move. That is what it's for outside of late game. So it's definitely a decent ability. Now, I will say I find a little bit difficult for the use of P-Gatling. I think it has its moments to be useful, but its main problem is you're out in the open, you cannot move, and it just keeps you in that rooted position. I think as long as they don't have a big counter, which is highly unlikely because of how many counters P-Gatling has, it can be fine. But I think overall, not a move you're going to use too much unless, I guess, late game. But again, Chili Bean Bomb, right there. And then his last ability, Pvzbfn, I think is how you say it. I think it's a very good move for moving from one side of the map to the other. Again, on version 2, you have, the one side and the other side by that small area, like the little mini turf takeover, as I keep calling it. And you could use Pvzbfn to get over there slowly, or quick, but that's kind of how you use that ability for the most part. So yeah, that is Pvzbfn. Again, a very friendly character for new players, just like the Foot Soldier. So that's where I'm going to put him. I think he's a little bit better than the Foot Soldier, so that's decent amount better. So that's why I'm putting him in A tier. So yeah, that is where he is going. So I think the next one in A tier is going to have to be Wizard. Here's the thing about Wizard. I think he has a lot of good abilities that he can use to advantages of other players. Well, he's a support character, so that makes sense. I think that the one where he goes on top of your head is very good. It allows for you to give some extra damage. You can use, your abilities, mostly on the other two abilities while you're on there. It makes for a very powerful, one zombie in the two, and I think is a good ability to have. I think even on his own, though, he's still very good. I think, his regular projectile, where he just shoots a little laser out, is a good marksman-like ability, and I think it's definitely better than the 80s. And, even the orb is very good for choke points and, the end game, but I think you'd rather use his little "you shall not pass" ability in that scenario, which is a very good ability. And then, of course, he has the Elixir, which is the most interesting ability in the game, but I have to give it credit for how many things it does, how many things it cancels, how many problematic options that it just says, "Oop," and it's gone. I think it makes it an amazing ability. So I have to put him here. I think the only problem is that he isn't the best close range. He's not as bad as the snipers or 80s. He's definitely the best at it, in my opinion, out of all of them. But I think it is still something to mention. But, definitely a great character. Can't complain about him at all. So the next one I want to talk about is Engineer. Now, Engineer is another interesting one. I think his worst ability by far is the one where he throws that little fan on the ground that makes you move faster. It's not very good. The only thing it gives you, the only thing I would say is actually useful for is strafing. I think because, you can throw it down and then you move it faster. With the strafing, I think is a nice thing for it. But other than that, not so much. But his other two moves or abilities, that is where he shines. I think that Heavy Helper is absolutely amazing. If you have a good position for it, it does damage. It'll make it basically where you have infinite ammo. Just amazing work with the Heavy Helper in the right scenario. And then, of course, the stun is amazing, especially in late game, but it's also probably the best, area denial tool, one of the best, at least in my opinion, in the game. Just because sure it doesn't do damage, but it stuns the opponent, and it can stun so many. Yeah, I kind of have to give it props. Now, his problems, though, do kind of vary a little bit with his primary. I think it's nice that they gave him the ability to bounce off walls, hit the opponent. That's pretty cool. But it's kind of hard to really make that practical in a lot of scenarios, at least in my experiences. Maybe you're better at it than I am, it's possible. But its damage is alright. But the other problem with it is, of course, it has a lot of bullet drop-off, so it doesn't have a lot of range, which is a little bit problematic. But it's still not a terrible primary, but definitely his high points are the two abilities I mentioned. And especially just because it's a smaller area, he's allowed to use them to pretty good use in the late game with the mini turf takeover thing again. So yeah, the only thing with him though is he doesn't have a lot of movement, well, any movement at all, and that's kind of the problem with him. It doesn't matter as much as it would in other game modes with the Battle Arena, but it's still something to mention because you still need it. It's still something you lose. I know I forgot to mention that for other characters, but it's why I put some lower, like TV Head and Wildflower. Well, I mentioned it with Hades, but you get the point. You need movement, but I think Engineer's good enough to still be higher up, even without that, but definitely not S. You cannot be S without good movement, except for maybe one character, but we'll get to that in a minute. So the next character I do want to talk about is Chomper. This might come to surprise to some people, but let me talk about it. Chomper now has a ranged attack. It isn't very good, but it's still a thing that he has that he didn't have in Garden Warfare, which was the main problem because you can go on a roof, can't hit him. But the thing is about this mode is that there's not a lot of roofs. Oh, there aren't any. There's not a lot of high points, and that really helps him out. Plus, Burrow, even if you die, you take someone with you. He is, at worst, a character where, hey, I get in, if I use it right, I kill another zombie with me. But he does have a lot of ways to be, taken out of it, in a lot of ways that counter it. There's movement options, there's things like modified, where, you're just hiding in the energy ball. I think characters that can't deal with it, though, that's where Chomper kind of comes in as a very good character. But if you can deal with it, then that's kind of where I'm like, okay, then he's not as good. What I'm trying to say is that he's very matchup dependent. But in the matchups he's good in, well, he can do a lot. I also think Grady Goop is an amazing ability for close quarters, choke points, the end game, all that good stuff. So, that's definitely a good ability, just because it takes away your opponent's abilities and makes them slow. It's just an amazing ability if they get stuck in it or are forced to get stuck in it, like for the end game, small turf takeover. I think that Spikeweed is definitely the worst ability, because it's easy to see, kind of has a weird thing where you shoot it out, so you can't really use it mid-fight like you could in Garden Warfare 2, which definitely makes it less useful in the long run. But if a zombie does get stuck in it, it's more than likely game over, because it does 75 health, so if you're an imp, you die instantly. But even if you aren't, that's a lot of damage, and the Chomper's probably close enough where one bite, you die, 2 max, you die, about maybe 3, but if you're like an all-star. But that's what I'm trying to say. You die early against Chomper, especially if you get hit by a Spikeweed. So he has a lot of setup to him, especially for the late game, but I think he could be pretty good. But again, that's late game. And again, he does have problems where he doesn't have a lot of movement. I have to run a little bit lower, but I definitely think he's got a lot of good things for him in this mode. He's definitely one of the characters who gets a lot off Battle Arena than others do. Now, the next character I do want to mention here is Imp. Now, Imp might seem a little high to some, but let me explain. I'm not putting Imp here for Imp, I'm putting Imp here for Z-Mech. Because while the Imp by himself isn't terrible, he's still not great at the same time. I'd probably put him here, just here as Imp. So he's not the worst, but he definitely isn't good. But the mech is amazing, and you have to kind of realize that. Sure, you have to wait for about 40 seconds. And that's kind of why, if you know he's going to be hiding low for those seconds, wait a bit, and then you call the Z mech. And then he is this monster. He can take 2, maybe even 3 plants at a time. Sure, the mech doesn't have any mobility, but it doesn't really need that for how powerful it is. That doesn't really matter as much as it would even for other characters. Like I mentioned, it doesn't matter too much in this game mode, but you're the Z mech anyway, so what does it matter? Especially in late game. Now here's the thing. It lasts so long, even when you call it in, you're probably going to have it until the end of the game. Unless late game takes a little bit of time, but with that, you can just walk in, explode the Z-Mech, throw a gravity grenade, and then kill him. So that doesn't really matter. So it just lasts long enough, especially if you have that one ability, that one upgrade that I forget the name of, where if you do the ground pound, you get more time with the mech. You can have that if you're a little bit worried about it. But I don't think that's necessarily needed. But yeah, no, I think the mech is very good. But in by himself, not so much. He definitely struggles in some matchups. I think, you know, ones like Snapdragon where you don't really have to aim, and Citron is really a problem for him. Just because Citron is roll dash, does 75 damage straight. So if you get hit by that, you're just done. One hit, you're dead. So you have to watch out a little bit. But if you can do that, and you can get the mech and play the mech well, I think he deserves to go up here. Anyway, the next character I do want to talk about is the Brainium Basher. So the Brainium Basher is a good move. I think that it is worse than the base, which I'm going to talk about right here, I'm going to be right above it. I think the problem that it has is a couple things. One, it is only good in 1v1 fights. It is not good in crowd control or anything else, which the regular Super Brains is also bad at it, but not as bad as Brainium Basher. And 2, he does have to charge it up, so he's going to be taking a lot of damage while charging it up, and then he goes, maybe gets a kill, but that's kind of his problem. I definitely think he's good. I mean, he has the best mobility in the game, but I think that it's just problematic with how poor his 2v1, 1v1, skills are out of 1v1 fights. And, if the enemy team is playing, more like I'm on my own, I'm not sticking together with the team, then yeah, he can play very well. But if they're playing strategically and, we're going to stick together, he struggles. Now, the thing about with regular Super Brains is, sure, he can still struggle, but it's not as bad because, he has the shield, and the shield can make it where he can walk in a little bit, get in, and then do his punches. I think it's a lot better with, it's called super combo or something like that, where he gets the 4th punch. That is a necessary upgrade, in my opinion, for a regular Super Brain. But, I think he just deals with it a little bit better. He also has a zoning move, not zoning, but a projectile, which while it doesn't have a lot of range, it allows him to shoot from a little bit more safer distance, so he doesn't have to just instantly rush in like the Brainium Basher would. I still think that it is a little bit better in this mode. Outside of this mode, probably not better than Brainium Basher, probably not even on the same tier as Brainium Basher, but I think, yeah, regular Super Brains is better than Brainium Basher. Honestly, if someone puts Brainium Basher in B, I wouldn't put it against him. I've thought about it, but I think I have to put it in just because how good that 1v1 fighting is. We're now going on to the S tier, which it's honestly moderately big, but I think that every single character in here deserves to be in here and has a place in here. Let's talk about our first S tier character, and that is Nightcap. I think Nightcap is the weakest of the S tiers, and that is because how easy she is to kill. She is small, so that does help in most matchups, but I think that is a problem. Point being said though, she is sneaky, she is fast, she can get in on the opponents better than anyone else because of how hard she is to see what she does. She can throw a little bubble thing, make it hard to see her more, and then of course use the very infamous Fung Fu. Fung Fu is probably the best ability in late game with the small turf takeover, capture the point thingamajig, because it just kills everyone. You need to kill Nightcap before that, because if you don't, you're probably going to lose, and that's one big reason I have to put her up here. But again, small, sure, but weak to a lot of things. and I think that can be very problematic. Definitely a harder character to play, but definitely rewarding. But if you get in a fight with, a Space Cadet or Steam Blaster or something like that, that's where I kind of have to say, yeah, you're not going to be doing too well. Even All-Star. So, yeah, I'm going to put her here. Definitely a good character, though. The next one I'm going to talk about here is Citron. I think Citron is one of the best plants in the game, as you could probably tell, but I think he's even better here. He has great defenses, and EM Peach is an amazing move, and again, I was talking about the rollout, kills imps instantly with that 75 damage, which by the way is just good damage. And then, he has a little laser ability, which is probably his best for far range, because that's kind of his main weakness here, is that he doesn't have a lot of good long range attacks. His primary is not good long. Fine close up, not long. But his laser ability can fix that. It takes a bit to rev up to deal its damage, but once it gets there, it can just decimate health bars. And it does do very well against Z-Man. So yeah, Citron, just like in Garden Warfare 2, I would say is probably one of the best to destroy Imp. There's another one who I think might be better, but we'll get to him in a minute with the Z-Mech. But yeah, not much to say about him. I think that the shield is very good and allows just to say, hey, this choke point is ours now, because it holds a lot of that. I'm thinking more with the corridors and stuff like that on the sides of the map. He's great in those positions. Peach is great for the late game. Yeah, I have to put him here. Great character. Now, we're going to go to a zombie next, and that is Space Cadet. I think Space Cadet is great, obviously. She's here. She punishes the small plants like Acorn and the previously mentioned Nightcap. Not even that, just having good damage even without that. I think it's perfectly fine damage, so she doesn't lose too much. Some of the other things I'd like to mention with her. Her Big Bang Beam, I think it's called, is amazing if you're good at it, and it could just kill so many plants right off the spot there. Sure, it's an ability, but it's a great one, and should not be slept on. I also think that the one where she goes up and crashes down is fine. It has problems because of how long time it takes, but if they don't notice you, yeah, you're going to get at least a big damage and kills. But again, it's kind of like a better version of 80s Action's Rocket Ride, I would say, where it's high risk, high reward. But it's definitely best as an ambush tool. Now, let's talk about the other reason I think Space Cadet is best here, and that is Space Station. It's literally just Oak, but way better. But that's because you're actually a unit. You're not taking different damages, you're not losing stuff like that. You are a unit, and you actually have good abilities, like the shield blocking damage. You have the missile, which is amazing. And not even just that, with the damage for the missile, if you're talking with your friends or something online for whatever, like, remember when this game had a ranked mode, by the way? Remember? I just want to bring that up because I know I wouldn't be able to before. But if you're talking to your friends or something, you could say, okay, I'm going to use the missile, shoot the missile out, and say, hey, these plants are blah, 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 giving you kind of information, kind of like a verbal version of the butter beacon for Kernel Corn. I just think it's way better than Oak. So the next character I do want to talk about is All-Star. Has very good defenses. I don't know if putting him above Citron is going to ruffle some feathers, but in my opinion, I think he is better for a couple reasons. I think that especially if you have the upgrade where his rev up is a lot quicker, his damage is a lot better. I also think the input, hit or miss on how good it is. Maybe you say it's better than Peach. I would disagree, but I think it's definitely still good ability. The tackle is literally the Citron ball, but the ability I have to put him up higher is the dummy. Now I know the dummy can be problematic if you put in a big area in most of the game, just because its hit points can be a little bit problematic where it doesn't have a lot of health and then it breaks quickly. But you gotta remember, in Battle Arena there are only 4 plants, so it's not going to be taking as much damage, especially if you place it strategically. Your teammates aren't being hit or anything like that. Now, It does have the problem where if you are more close up, they can just keep walking through it and then attack you. But the thing is that it still starts something. If you move back and then shoot, they can't shoot through it, and now you're behind it. I think it definitely is hard to use, but if used correctly, you can do a bubble fight that can just make it so much better. Trust me. And I think that's why I have to put him here. If you disagree, and I can understand, but I just think he's the better character with Citron, especially in this mode. So that's why I'm putting him here. So yeah. Now, the next one I'm going to talk about is Regular Scientist. Now, Regular Scientist, I will say, doesn't do a lot of damage. But that's okay, because he is a pocket healer with the heal hose. It's 8 heal every single time it ticks. Great healing. Even better if you add some other upgrades. But even by itself, great healing. I think that Warp makes him have probably one of maybe the best mobility in the game. Either Scientist or Brainium Basher, in my opinion. Either or. Great movement. And then, of course, the sticky healy thingy. Do I have to mention why that move is broken? Sure, it has a long cooldown of about 30 seconds. But it heals near instantly. It is absolutely amazing. Do not underestimate that ability at all. And don't underestimate Scientist just because he doesn't have as much damage. Because again, he could pocket, shoot a little bit maybe, then go back, heal. I think he deserves an S tier placement. I think all healers deserve an S tier placement. So yeah, that's why I gotta put him here. Now, the next character I am going to talk about is Snapdragon. Now, Snapdragon is broken. I remember how I said that Citron and some other character might be the best imp destroyer in the game. Well, the other one's Snapdragon. That's because of his high damage. Let me just mention something. He has his swoop move where he goes up in the air and smashes down. That can kill, if hit directly, Scientists, Foot Soldiers, and any other character with 120 health. It kills most zombies in the game, except for the Z-Mech and, Super Brains and stuff. That is stupid. I know it isn't the easiest to hit, but that is stupid, and it needs to be fixed, even though I know it never will be. Now, his firewall is also very good. It's a lot better in this mode for, area denial. It's good you'll never guess it, in the corridors, in the small choke points. It's good in that. His worst move is definitely his Blue Blazes. Doesn't do much. It does 100 damage, yeah, but it's hard to hit. Again, it's a tracking move, which homing is not very good in this game, but I digress. It's not great, but whatever. It's not a bad move. It just isn't great. I think that his primary is also very good. I don't know, he's supposed to be like a close range, but it feels more like a mid-range with that flamethrower. High damage, you have the only fire plant in the game, and that is just absolutely broken. And of course, he has his long-range one, which is fine. Not as good as close, but still not bad in the slightest. Don't underestimate Snapdragon, trust me, especially in this mode. Now, the next character I am going to talk about is probably the most, hot take, I guess you could say, of my opinions. But that is Electric Slide as a top 3 character in Battle Arena. And let me talk about it. Very good at area control, crowd control with, the electric ability, obviously. Disco Tornado even adds to that. Funky Bouncer, while not usually good, if you're on the first version of the map with the water on that little corner there where there's just a big bunch of water, if you're fighting someone there and you throw that, it's an instant death for them because they're just going to go over there and they die and there's nothing you can do to save them. But other than that, it just moves plants away from each other. And I know that's her whole thing, but it is pretty good. It's probably her worst move, her worst special, but it's still good if used correctly. But with all that, I would probably put her A, maybe low B. But there is one thing with one upgrade that forces me to put her this high, and that is the ability Out of Fight. With the upgrade, Defibrillator, that ability is fine on its own. It basically does what the Rose's Arcane Enigma does, but without the speed upgrade, which is fine. She's a better character anyway, so her getting in, being able to attack a little bit, then get out, is fine. Probably does better anyway. with that upgrade, Defibrillator. I'm going to get it right one day. Basically allows her to use the ability, but then instantly reloads and starts regenerating health. It is an instant reset ability every 18 seconds. Do I need to explain why that is broken? She's a decent character on her own. Again, probably a low A. But with that ability on its own, I have to put her top 3S for this game mode. Because resets in this game mode are just broken. And she has the best one of the game for this game mode. And in the game, obviously. Like, if you want to go on a streak, like a kill streak, even a turf takeover or whatever, just do that. Use that upgrade. Use Electric Slide. You're going to get a high kill streak if you play it right. Trust me. Now, for the second best character in the game, no surprise, Sunflower. Look, high damage. Greatest heals in the game, I would say. Fast. Yeah, I don't understand. If you don't think that Sunflower is this high, I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, you know, it's broken. That's all I'm gonna say. She's broken. Yeah. The sunbursts are broken. The heal beam is broken. Her gun is broken. The only thing that isn't broken is sunbeam. Well, the heal beam is fine, but the sunbeam not so much. Same problems with P Gatling, but still broken character. Now we have the best character in the game, in my opinion, by far. My personal favorite, the one who I think should always be considered best, Steam Blaster. Okay, look, I know that Steam Blaster on launch was considered the best by far, but had gotten a couple damage nerfs, many reload nerfs, but it doesn't matter. We all know that even with the damage nerf, he was the most broken still, because it was still too much damage. It was really the ammo that hurt him, because now he only has 4 ammo. But what if you could just fix that? What if you just make it go away? Welcome to the Materialize upgrade. Every single time you warp with the Steam Blaster, you will get 2 extra ammo. 3 warps, guess how many that is? 12. 12 shots. I rest my case. But even on its own, it's the best area denial. It's the best crowd control. It makes him amazing for late game. He can heal his opponents and himself like the Sunflower. And again, just like I was talking about with the regular scientist, he has the best movement, Hammer, Brainium Basher, in the game. So there's no doubt in my mind. So yeah, you know, that is the list. Yeah. If you liked the video, you could like or subscribe. You could do something, but if you don't, that's fine. I just appreciate people watching it, you know. So yeah, Happy New Year's or Happy Late New Year's, depending on when this goes out. But I'm going to try to get it before the New Year, but we'll see. Yeah, so I do have some other PvZ videos in mind and some other Godzilla ones and non-tier list videos. So, look out for that. Thank you all. I hope you have a great rest of your day or night. Goodbye.